Look around at most leaders, most companies that you see, and you will see them playing small or average or simply settling at good enough. And not because they are bad at what they're doing. These people are often brilliant, right? But many times they are just trapped in the day-to-day struggles, firefights, all of that. And let me just tell you, right, this is what I have learned. Good enough is the biggest enemy of greatness. Now, look at your own company for a second right now. Where have you and your team quietly settled something good enough, right? This is what is normally called a comfort zone. And comfort zones don't feel dangerous, but that is exactly what makes them dangerous. I'm Sumit Gupta. I run 10GenPartners. And before I go any further, let me share something about myself. Because I really don't believe that you should simply trust something that I say only because I am saying it. And the first thing that I would tell you is that I'm nobody special. Actually, right, to be very honest, I'm a nobody. There is nothing in my history, in my education, in my background that was supposed to lead me to where I am today. I grew up in India. I was that introverted kid who couldn't speak to people, so he hid behind books first and then later computer. I became an engineer. I spent 16 years in tech. I had a comfortable job, comfortable paycheck, a very comfortable life. I was also suffocating from the inside. I felt almost dead inside, right? Even though I had by external measures everything, right, that you can aim for. If you have shown me 10 years ago, right, that this is what I would be doing today, like coaching CEOs, scaling like a small portfolio of companies and standing up for impossible goals like taking the Indian volleyball team to the Olympics, I would have told you that that's not for me. I would have probably laughed at you. Now, here is the part which will probably make me look bad, but I will tell you anyways, it caught up with me. That life of good enough gave me depression and led me to burnout. From the outside, I had everything, right? I had people congratulating me on a good career, the promotions, but from the inside, I was suffocating. When I decided to walk away from that safe career and reinvent myself, people around me often told me that I'm committing career suicide, right? And honestly, even I thought for a long time that I believed them. I would be making the biggest mistake of my life. But I have kept going anyways in the last 6 years, because here is one question which I couldn't let go of. That question was like, what is the point of a good-looking career if I'm already dead inside? What is the point of all of these promotions and the house that I have and everything that I have if I don't feel alive? What's the point of all of that? So again, right, I'm not coming at you with all the answers. Nothing I'm going to share with you is about like theory that I have cracked the code, or like everything that I will share is something which I've lived, which I've experienced, and something that I still practice every single day. And right now, this week itself, right, I'm working with founders who are scaling their companies from 70 million to 150 million. One of the companies is going from 12 to 50 million. Another is going from 15 to 55 million. And there's one which is going from 1 million to 6 million as we speak. So all different sizes of companies, different industries, but the underlying work which I want to share with you is the same. So here, what I will ask for you, think about your own company as you listen to me. Think about your own life while I talk. I'm going to walk you through 3 ideas or principles that is almost the backbone of everything that I do. As you listen to these 3 ideas, I want you to reflect on your life, on your organization, and see what could be missing here. What would I want for myself now that I am hearing or listening to Sumit talk about this, right? The first one, an impossible goal, is actually often easier than an incremental one, than a safer one. It sounds backwards, but trust me, it isn't. Second one, why almost everything that we were taught about time and planning is quietly working against us. This is something I took me maybe for more than 40 years of my life to really understand. And it still takes me a lot of presence to practice. And the third idea is that the real gap between you and your biggest goal was never the resources or the market or the strategy or any skill. It's always about your commitment. So let's begin with principle 1. Anything impossible that you currently think is impossible is not harder than an incremental outcome. Now, Jennifer is an entrepreneur from the Netherlands. Her business was going fine. It was steady. Clients were coming in. Work was getting done. But also revenue was flat for many, many years now. The revenue was not failing, but she was stuck. When we first talked, right, I asked her the only question that actually matters, which is, what do you want? And she wanted to grow her business by 30%. And I immediately called bullshit on that, as I could see a fire in her belly, in her eyes, that can't do justice to the 30% growth that I was hearing from her mouth. So I asked her again, what is it that you want? Not what you think is possible, not what you think is realistic or reasonable. And then she told me she wanted to double her revenues 18 months. That was the timeline that she gave me. But guess what? 6 weeks later, not 18 months, she was at roughly 90% of that number?
Yes, it has, although it's just 6 weeks, it has been quite a ride. I was kind of stuck. We doubled the prices to get started with. And we had this role play, like how I would present this to my clients. And I thought that they would say that there's no way you can't make this. Like I thought they were going to refuse and becoming some kind of resistance. They didn't. And you helped me to also to really feel the position of the client when they talk to me, but also how I can improve my role and take more leaderships in that. This is so big. It's like, to me, this is like dream material. These are the things I dreamt about when I was a little girl, to publish a book and to go to a bookshop and find my book there.
Now, here is what I actually want you to take from that. In very simple terms, right? Her goal of doubling was not impossible because it was not possible. It became impossible the moment she shrank her real goal down to fit what she thought that she could achieve or she was capable of achieving. Nothing more complicated than that. Any impossible goal is not harder than an incremental one. In fact, I would say it's often easier. Now picture a heavy door in front of you, right? And see, most people are pushing at that door. They're trying harder, they're putting in more effort, they're grinding more. And this is the kind of hard work that everybody applauds, right? That gets you respect in society. But still the door doesn't move because the door was a pull door. It was never a push door, right? And an incremental goal has like a characteristic like that. Like you are pushing at it. The more you do, it's not really moving. It's not really doing anything. The harder you try, it doesn't move. And an impossible goal often requires you to pull the other way. And it requires you to many times stop, look at what the situation is in front of you, and then finding the move that you wouldn't see if you're just pushing. So think about like what is your own reasonable goal or target, number, business growth, all of that right now, right? What is your 30% growth version? The goal that sounds respectable in front of others, but isn't actually what you really want. And to be honest with yourself, right? It's never your market. It's never the resources, the time, the money, people that you have. It is always you, often unconsciously, the whole time holding yourself back. And I know that because I spent 8 long years, knowing that I wanted to coach CEOs, help their companies grow, but I was telling myself I was not ready. I was telling myself I did not have any experience in that. I was telling myself I'm an introvert. I was telling myself I had no certifications, no knowledge. And basically my calendar, if you look at it, it used to have 8 days, Monday through Sunday. And then there would be a someday, which would hold all of these dreams, which were in the impossible bucket. Someday, right, if you really look at it, even in your calendar, it could be the busiest day in most people's calendar, but the one that never arrives and that will never arrive, right? And when my son was born, I looked at him and I thought, like, what kind of father waits for someday while his own life goes by? And I was already writing articles speaking about all of these things which I have created, the work that I do. And it was a very difficult thought for me to digest that when my son grows up, if he asks me, right, Papa, why don't you practice what you write about? Why don't you live what you write about? I had no answer to that question when he was born. In 2021, I stopped waiting. I started as an entrepreneur without any proof, without any readiness or skills that I thought that I needed and that I was waiting for the past 8 years. So take some time to actually answer this question. What is it that you really, really want? Not what is possible or realistic or reasonable. What do you really want in your life, in your business? The second principle is that the future is not a place to get to, it is a place to come from. Now, most of us treat time like a straight line, from the past to the present and to the future, like a conveyor belt, right, that we are all strapped to. Now, we look at last year's numbers, we look at today's constraints and resources, and we add a bit of growth, and we call it like a wonderful, realistic goal. Now, here is a simple truth that I have come to realize, that any future that you build from your past or based on your past is simply a slightly like a different, nicer version of the past. You're not creating any new future. You're only recycling the past, right? And that's not what future is, right? A future, a bold future, an unreasonable future, a dream is something that has no connection to your past. Let me show this to you with Peter's example. Peter walked into a session with me with an 18-slide deck. It was 9 months he had given him to reach 10,000 customers on his app. And it was a very comprehensive marketing plan. It was impressive, right? And he was totally operating from his past, from his corporate past. And I told him, right, that's not a plan, that's a security blanket. I told him, you have spent 2 days building something that looks impressive so that you don't have to do anything scary. He didn't argue because he knew He knew it was true, and that's why he was there in front of me. And 9 months sounded very respectable, and it allowed him to move slowly, right? And I asked him, what if you could do this in 9 weeks? And then even a harder question, that imagine you had already done it in 9 weeks. How did it happen? From the future, 9 weeks in the future, you have already achieved your 10,000 users marketing plan. So now from the future, tell me, how did it happen? An answer from the future, not from today. Then he stripped that plan down to almost nothing in about an hour. But he could see a way to do it in 9 weeks. And then I asked him, what if you could do it in 9 days? And at first he looked at me that I had gone bonkers, that I had lost it. But then I told him the same thing that my coach often reminds me of, that, right? So don't tell me what you can't do. Tell me what you would actually do if it is possible in 9 days or whatever X amount of days. And my coach is often more dramatic, right? He tells me, don't tell me your sob story. But there was a long silence with Peter once I asked him that question. But then slowly, once again, he started speaking from a future, 9 days in the future, of how this same outcome of 10,000 users could be possible. And he told me, then I would have to start today. I would call the people in my network, right, in my phone list today, that I'm scared to call today. And I would stop polishing the strategy, the presentation, and I would just move. I can't wait now. Now, let me tell you, right, he didn't hit that milestone in 9 months. He didn't even hit it in 9 weeks. He got there in 27 days. Now, this was the same person. This was the same market. He had the same resources. The only thing that changed was he stopped treating the future as a place where he had to slowly reach based on all of his experience, all of his knowledge from the past, and started treating as a place where he could speak and come back from today, starting today.
What I realize is that if in case I'm asking, am I committed towards something, that means I'm not committed. So that essentially brought in a safe change. And probably what I could have done in about 2 months, I was given 2 days. Second key thing is, how do you look at achieving bigger things? So one exercise that we did, where we said, hey, what do you want to do next 9 months? How can we do that in 9 weeks? And hey, is an opportunity to do that in 9 days. That was like mind-blowing. That changed the whole perspective of time.
I didn't learn all of this in some kind of school or training. I've learned all of this the hard way in my own life. See, I lost my mom to cancer when she was 51. We were very close. The day she died, the story that I made up was like, life has been sucked out of my life. And for 8 long years, I lived inside that story. Like, I almost feel groundless. I feel like the foundation of where I am standing is no longer there. But that never happened. That was a story that I made in the present, and not just in the present moment, right? Every day I was remembering. I was not just remembering, I was creating that same story that I am standing on shaky ground, or the life has been sucked out of me. It was like playing the same record on repeat. The fact was simple, right? My mom died of cancer, but what never happened was life got sucked out of me. That never happened. But that I was creating it every moment when I was speaking that out loud in my mind. Now, that was very understandable, but still a story which never happened. So when I finally processed the grief of her passing away, I built a different story about her. And the story that I create every day today is, my mother is still with me, and her death was her biggest gift to me. And there are so many lessons which I keep learning from remembering her words even today, which probably is only possible because she is no longer here. And I create the story that I carry her legacy forward today, because she used to tell me, right, that no matter what happens, you can always count on me. I will always be there. I will always love you. Like, with me, you never have to perform or look for approval. Like, I'm always there, no matter what you do. Today, the work that I do, I am that kind of a stand for these leaders and these companies that I work with. And every board and every executive team meeting that I am a part of, she's right there. My mom is right there with me today. That's a new story that I create today. That is not only changing my past or recreating my past, it is also shaping very much my future. Now, I'm not telling you this to be sentimental, but this is the biggest probably example from my life, where I have seen that both my past and my future is only getting created now. Like, my past is not in some past and my future is not in the future. They are both happening right now in the moment, right? The past never happens in the past. The future never happens in the future. The past only is created every moment as a memory, as what we think about it, the stories we tell ourselves and others about it. And the future is also a narrative, an imagination that we create today, and the actions we take today, what we say and what we don't say today, right? And how big we dream, how boldly we move towards it. That is where the future is created, not in some imaginary time in the future, right? And here is the simple question for you. which I want you to reflect and answer, right? What future are you building right now? The one that you're afraid of, or the one that you actually want? By your thinking, by your thoughts, by your actions today. If your actions are procrastination today, if your actions are over-analysis because of fear, the future you are going to create is not the future of your dreams. It is exactly the future that you don't want rather than the one that you want. Right? So I will ask you, what future are you building right now with your actions, with your stories, with your narratives? Because right now is the only place your future exists. Whatever your future will be 10 years from now, 5 years from now, it is being built today by you. And ask yourself, what are you building? By your actions, including your procrastination, including your people pleasing, including everything that shapes what you do today. And most leadership teams that I meet build strategy exactly the way that Peter built his first plan. You look at last year's number, you look at today's constraints or resources, you add a bit and you call it a roadmap. Now that is prediction, that is predicting from the past, right? And that is nothing to do with creation, that is nothing to do with what I'm talking about, creating a future from the future itself. Creating a future totally free from the past sounds like this, right? We are going to redefine what our industry looks like. We are going to redefine what is even possible. And if that means increasing our revenue by 8 times in the next 3 years, then that be it, right? And a question from the future that we ask is, if that has already happened, how did we do it? Not like, will we get there? How will we get there? How do we make sure we get there? But it has already happened. We are already there. Now answering the question from the future, how did we get there? Do it for yourself. Do it for your dreams. Do it for your company. Do it for your future. Here is another part that most people miss. Once you're coming from an impossible future, not moving towards it, you have to simplify to get there. Addition, which is doing more, working harder, longer hours, is never the answer, even though it might appear that way. Subtraction, elimination, stop doing things, saying no to things often is the answer. And most businesses, most people are running too many things at once. Too many products, too many people, too many yeses, many of them given years ago out of politeness or fears, but still occupying your calendar. And an impossible goal, an impossible outcome that you really care about, that you really want, that you want your life to be about, makes it very, very obvious, very, very fast that what actually belongs in your calendar, what actually belongs in your life today, and what doesn't, what you have only been dragging forward out of habit, right? Which means that you will have to unlearn things, which means that you have to practice not doing things, and which is not laziness. This is in fact the most courageous thing that most leaders struggle to do, which is to cut down on things, which is to say no to people, say no to processes or to old ways of doing things. That is how you multiply your outcomes, your results, instead of just adding. The same goes for your personal life as well. The relationship that you keep out of guilt, the commitment that you continue to drag along because nobody thinks of you as rude. Now that is not neutral, that is not okay, that is bandwidth, that is your time, that is your energy, that is your resources that your impossible future actually needs, right? So now you have got the impossible goal, you have got the future that you're building back from. But there is still one more principle that decides whether any of this actually matters. In fact, it is the only thing that matters. Principle 3 is that commitment creates everything. Now, this part might sting a little bit, right? But I will mean what I say with love and not with judgment. The third principle says that you're always 100% committed, never less committed or more committed, and your results simply show what is it that you're 100% committed to, right? Not what you say that you're committed to, not what you wish or think that you're committed to, but your results show what you are actually right now fully committed to, which is then proven by your calendar, by your bank balance, by the energy in your team, by everything that is real in your life today. So if your business has not grown in 2 years, you're not missing commitment to grow. You're fully committed to something else. Maybe that is comfort. Maybe that is to being liked. Maybe that is to not risk the failure of your current level of success or anything else that comes with actually going for your impossible dream. And I'm not saying this to beat you up. I'm saying this because it is the only way to actually do something about your situation is to actually face the truth. Unless you face the truth, unless you see very objectively where you are, how you are coming in your own way, you cannot do anything about it.
I think the biggest thing I was committed to back then was second guessing myself and protecting myself from my own future self, like planning everything, figuring everything out before I do anything. I wanted to do something of my own, but I didn't have the courage or I didn't have the right ingredient. I was looking for some external signal or motivator for that to happen. I couldn't have even imagined to be in this current situation last year. I couldn't have even asked for. So what this year, so I think 2024 was one of the biggest years for me. Like I am like, I built a company. Now it's like 15 people big. In fact, Sumit, like I think, yeah, who could have imagined like this time last, like you were taking a bet on me, and now you are working with all the founding team of the startup. Like you're working with all of them now. Even if I would have had to say that, okay, I will achieve all of this thing, I would have probably given it 3 years time. It just happened in a year.
Yeah. And let's do a quick thought experiment, right? If somebody put a gun to your head and asked you to achieve your impossible goal, what would you do? You probably already know the next step which you would take. You would call the client that you have been avoiding. You will pitch with conviction that you didn't even know that you had, and you would stop needing to look perfect. You will just move forward, even though it might be raw or messy, and you will do what you have to do if you had a gun to your head, right? And that is not a new ability that you will get out of nowhere. You always had that ability. You have that ability even today to create some miracles, and you don't need a gun to your head to trigger that. That is the good news, right? You can choose that intensity, that commitment anytime you want to, right? Which we all choose when we are faced with a crisis, when we are pushed against a wall. We all act with that level of intensity that often even surprises us and others. And we end up acting in ways that often moves mountains. But why do we need a crisis for that? You see, commitment is not a feeling, it is a choice. It is a choice which you can make any given moment, right? And you have already done it thousands of times, right? The first time you did something unreasonable to get home to your child or to protect somebody that you loved at a real cost to yourself. So you already know how to commit. The problem is that you haven't been bringing that same level of commitment to the dreams, to the things that you say, and you have settled for good enough or a reasonable level of progress, that you don't even notice that there is another level of intensity, commitment that you can bring to what you do. And this is also because, right, most of us are trained this way, and this works against us as an engineer, as a doctor, as a marketer, whatever we study, right? We are always trained in school to prepare, then to practice, then to build some capability, to build confidence slowly, and then to commit to something huge. Now, that is a great sequence for building a bridge. That's a great sequence to building software, which is what I studied. But it will certainly kill your impossible goal, because leadership is not an engineering problem. Leadership is not about any functional skill that you might have studied in school. Leadership is a creative act. Leadership is about building something that has not existed before, and maybe there is no precedent for what you want to do, and there is no dry run for leadership for what you want to produce. And the leaders who actually end up achieving or having some impossible outcomes actually do it backwards, right? Moving back from the future. They commit first without knowing, without having the skills, and then they act from that commitment. And many times, because they don't have the skills, they're not confident, that action is messy. And then they learn. They learn by taking imperfect action. And then slowly and slowly, as they take action, which is very, very different from the safe, steady action which we take when we are waiting for confidence, right? If I'm not waiting for confidence or skills or preparation, I'll take bold action because of my commitment. Now, if I learn from that bold action rather than the safe and steady action, then that's how I build a very different kind of capability. And that's how I build a very different kind of confidence. But that confidence is not a requirement to move. It's not a requirement to start. It is only the result of doing it so many times and failing and coming back up so many times, right? Because if you're waiting for readiness, you will never feel ready. You become ready the moment you commit, and you become ready because you committed, not because you had the perfect skills or talents or resources. So readiness, as it turns out, was never about time. Readiness was always about the courage to commit. Just very recently, a woman leader from one of my companies got caught in the Mumbai floods. There was 3 feet of water outside her building. There were no trains running, and everyone was telling her to stay home. But she had a project kickoff meeting that morning. Now, what she did was she climbed onto a passing tractor outside her home to reach the station, and then made the meeting 15 minutes early. She was soaking wet. And then while going back home, she got stuck for another 5 hours because there was no transport running because the roads were all flooded. And this is what she told me, right? That if I was not committed to my goal, I would have not have the courage to travel through flooded roads on a tractor. It would have been very easy. Nobody would have questioned her if she had decided to skip that project kickoff meeting. And she told me that my commitment gave me that strength. And she also told me that she didn't even knew that she had that strength until she made that commitment. And that is what actual commitment looks like in regular life or in business. See, a business will never outperform the commitment of its leaders. And when who you are being, when how you are showing up changes, the business results almost become inevitable. The results that you get is simply the icing on the cake. It's a side effect of being committed, not even the point of being committed. And this goes beyond business. One founder whom I worked with had a conversation with his brother, also his business partner, about the future of the company. And after years of unspoken tension between them, there was a real risk of this conversation. But he did it anyway because avoiding it was costing him more, was costing him his aliveness. Another client, for the first time in her life, drew a very hard boundary with her husband at home, and she asked her husband to leave. And this was the first time that she told me that she had stood up for herself like that. And her self-respect after that went up immediately and also showed up in her leadership at work, right? Without that being the intention. Another client had not spoken to her family, were estranged for over 20 years because of a legal dispute. After a few months of engaging with me, she went back and her family, they turned her away. But then she went back after a few days again. This time the door opened and they cried and they had that kind of a reunion, which probably would not have been possible with another 10 years of legal battles. One founder had an acquisition collapse just on the second to last day of the signing of the acquisition of his company. And the entire company was gone, like without any warning, without any notice. There was no money left. And this is the exact nightmare that every founder, every entrepreneur fears. And this guy, he didn't fall apart. He landed a new dream job within 30 days of that happening and told me the whole thing taught him more about life and about commitment than the last 2 years of building that business. And I'm telling you these stories, right, including the ones that don't have a clean, happy ending, because I don't want to sell you a version of anything that sounds like all upside, right? Some of this, going for the impossible, going for what you really care about, want in your life without any reason, justification, some of this is really, really hard, right? It will cost you, it might cost you something real, but that's the whole point, right? And I would rather you hear from me now than surprised by something happening later. So when I ask you to commit to something impossible, I'm not only talking about a bigger business. I'm also talking about that relationship that is important to you. I'm also talking about the culture or the kind of clients you want or the kind of employees that you want, how people want to speak about you. I'm talking about if you want to mentor other entrepreneurs and leave a legacy, make a difference beyond the work, the business that you do. Right? I'm also including and talking about the health goals that you keep postponing, or the version of you as a parent, as a partner, or as that you already know is possible for you, but you just haven't given yourself the permission to become that person. So these three principles are the work that I practice in my own life, and then with every company in my portfolio. And this work never ends. It's like climbing a mountain with no top, right? Because the main idea is this: impossible is not harder. It is never harder than incremental, and it is often easier. But it asks for a different you. It asks for a different team, a different way of operating altogether, rather than more, better, faster, a little bit of change of what you were doing earlier, right? So hard work, more effort is not the solution. It's not what we're talking about. And also the future is not just a place to get to. The future, the real power of seeing time as everything happening only in the now, is when you can see future as a place you can come back from. You can speak and act from the future right now. And when you do that, time compresses in ways that look unreasonable from the outside. And underneath, whichever way you act, it is commitment. And commitment is not something that you go find somewhere. It's not found somewhere. It is something you already have. You only choose to commit, and you have already been 100% committed. The only question is to what? Once you figure that out, once you become aware of what you have been committed to, which will be shown by the results that you have today in your life, then you can choose to commit to something else and act from that place, from that future. So here is my question to you. This is the same question which I ask every leader who sits across from me. What would be the biggest game of your life? If you stopped waiting, if you stopped playing small or good enough, what would be the biggest game of your life? Now, this is not the version that sounds good in a board meeting. This is the one that has been quietly circling in the back of your mind the whole time you have been listening to this. This is the one that excites you and scares you at the same time. Now, some of you will need to watch this multiple times and do so, right? I would invite you to do so if you feel, if you have to. But if something in you is already clicking, is already saying yes, that you're still listening, if you're done circling the dream and ready for somebody to challenge you directly on what is actually possible, I or anybody from my team would love to speak to you. One thing you can do is you can go take the 100 million jumps scorecard. It will take a few minutes, 27 questions, and you will find out exactly what has been holding your business back. Or you can book a call with somebody in our team. And again, whether you fill the scorecard or speak with us, do it for your own sake, not for ours. Not because I'm asking you, but because what you care about, because your impossible dream, because what your life is going to be about, that matters to you. And I will leave you with this, right? That whatever the people that I have worked with have managed to achieve, it isn't some special thing that I have or these people have that you don't. It is sitting right there in you as well. It has been patiently waiting for you to exercise that choice. It never asks if you're ready. It never waits for anybody's permission, but it certainly needs you to choose one path over another, and often without readiness, often without preparation, and often without having the permission or the validation from anybody or anything around you. So I will end this video with, what is your impossible dream and what are you going to do about it? I will see you on the other side.